Joe.
Hi there, it's Pete, the Hipster King from the Hairy Game Lords, and this
Hi,
evening...
Pete!
Hi, Dave, and this evening we've been playing on TTS Elements of the Gods. Dustin Culbertson set this one up for us and sent us a link to get onto TTS, and I know we've only got about a week left on the Kickstarter, so not long now to go and check it out. So, Elements of the Gods. I absolutely loved this game. I think it was brilliant, and I got hammered. I was absolutely smashed to bits by Dave in this game. He proper killed me. I mean, I think he nearly doubled my score. It was an embarrassing rout. I'm not going to lie, but it was brilliant. I did my normal thing that happens when Dave smashes me, which is I focus on my little game. I'm enjoying it. I'm really thinking about what I'm going to do, and I am. I'm not crying, Dave. It's just how I play, and I need to learn to lift my head up and see what other people are doing. I chose not to. I was far too engaged in moving. Using the elements to move the worshippers around the boards, that I could get the little pattern I needed to with the right combination of worshippers in a square, so I could place my monuments, get my garden tiles, do all of that.
And then I came along and just went,
pretty much. So this is a really clever little game. It feels, and that's probably why I lost, but it feels like you're kind of playing on a 2D Rubik's Cube to some extent, where you're trying to move you can only move one type of worshipper. There are different sort of clans of worshipper, which are basically different coloured meeples, and you can move one colour in certain ways if you use a certain element, and a different element moves things in different ways, and so you're kind of in that kind of to get patterns.
It's kind of like herding cats to a certain extent, trying to get a specific pattern of meeples in that specific square, either diagonal to your garden or adjacent to your garden or whatever, by pushing them, pulling them, and the different elements. One of them basically chases meeples away. The water sort of drags them towards a certain spot. So you are trying to push, pull, guide, cajole different colours towards the right place. And then death comes along and just goes, blur that square, everything in it dies.
Yeah, and that's Dave was pretty much Dave. So I was getting lots of things just about ready, and then Dave kills it off. And you're trying.
So Pete was it. I did. I think I did miss some of the cajoling my workers around, because I let Pete do all of the moving people around, and then I kind of spammed the death card quite a bit. Every time he almost had his meeples in position to get a big point score, I just killed them all. It was really funny.
So next time I play this game, there'll be a little bit more heads up, a little bit more watching Dave, and a little bit more thinking. Probably, I think it's one of those games where if you want to do well, you need to be a couple of moves in advance. I was a couple of moves on my area in advance, but I wasn't thinking about what elements would be left. So there are 5 elements, I think, in the game. You've got earth, air, fire, water, and death. Water pulls everybody in the surrounding sort of 9 square, the 8 squares surrounding the placement where you place your water. And the minis on this game look great. We've obviously I've seen pictures now, and it does look a really pretty game for the table. But you place your water element onto there, and you choose a colour, and those worshippers move into that square. Fire, the opposite, you move them out by 2. Wind, you move a section of 3 that way, 3 squares that way. Everybody moves 1 space away. Earth allows you to create new worshippers, so you put 5 random worshippers into a space. And death does what death does and kills everybody on that square. And you're allowed to take 2 worshippers to come to your kind of afterlife, which helps you with endgame scoring potentially and allows you to do some other things. And what you're trying to do is there are sort of 3 types of card. There's the monument cards, and you had to play a monument card and get one of your monuments out, which starts allowing you to do some working towards endgame scoring. You've got to get a pattern of worshippers in a square right, and then you can play that monument card. And then you've got these divinity cards, and they're the timer in the game, because once you've played 5 divinity cards, that's it. End of round and end game scoring starts. And those divinity cards are looking for patterns around a monument. So you need to get the right monument out with the right worshippers around it, the right colours and the right mix of colours, and and some of those scored really big 17, 18, 20 point, some big points. They were complex patterns to get, but if you get that pattern. Now, what Dave did, which was brilliant, to be fair to him, was he had 2 monuments very close together. You're not allowed them right close together, but which allowed
It was like a knight move in chess kind of thing.
Yeah, and allowed him to score he could put people onto one square and score from 2 monuments quite regularly. So that helped him. And I was still struggling to get like 1 monument out often.
So yeah, that placement of monuments, I think, to be honest, I kind of looked into that tactic rather than it necessarily being massively crafty planning. I realised sort of what I'd got after I'd got it and could maximise the scoring from it. And you don't just get a free choice of which element to play. All of the elements are out to start with, and then when one person's played it, it's then gone until you've cycled through the whole lot. So you need to, and this is, I think, probably where Pete went wrong, is you need to be aware of what the other person's wanting to play as much as what you need to play. So if you know that they need to push their workers towards a particular way, or that's what they're planning for, you can go, actually, I could use fire or air to do this job, but I know Pete needs fire, so I'll use it instead. And it just denies them the chance to use it. That and grabbing death and using death early is always a fine tactic, because every time Pete started getting them together, I blurted him.
Yeah.
And that also stopped him getting his revenge on my little groups of worshippers because the death had already gone. So you do need to, I think, probably be more aware of what the other person's trying to do than in some other games.
So if you don't like player interaction, this probably isn't the one for you. But it's what I really like about this. It did feel like a real proper strategy game as well. So I really enjoyed just the puzzle of trying to move that character there and then do this. So
how do I get 3 blue ones and 2 red ones and a yellow one
there? And I love that
all around here.
That puzzle was brilliant. Now, what I didn't do was the interaction well, and the kind of that battling and that take thatty bit, because it's not something I'm brilliant at. I love playing games like that, and I know, but Dave will always beat me at that. Is where his skill set is. He's brilliant at that. But I just really enjoyed the puzzle of it. So if you are that kind of gamer, you will love this. If you like that interaction and that chance and that really is a head-to-head, and it's not about it isn't one of those Euros where you're basically playing multiplayer solitaire. It isn't that. It isn't you.
No, it is
game.
very much.
It is very much you are working against. You're trying to do some of it. There's an element of trying to spoil people's moves at the same time as doing enough to build your own kingdom, if you like.
Yeah, and I was playing very sort of spoilery as well, because we had sort of separated ourselves quite a bit into different ends. But if your monuments are quite close together, there's even more of that push-pull. He's trying to pull the workers over towards him. I'm trying to pull them back to me, and that whole push-pull element with the wind, fire, that was really clever. I thoroughly enjoyed the puzzle element of it.
And I just think Elements of the Gods is an absolutely brilliant game. Looking at it in terms of a table presence, the sculpts for the kind of the different elements and the monuments look really, really nice in terms of on the Kickstarter page. They look great. So you've got a really nice table presence. You've got what is in essence actually a very simple game. The rules were really clear, really quick to pick up. So it's not a really complex game.
Yeah.
But it's really tactical. There's a really nice puzzle to it. So it's got a hell of a lot going on in actually what is quite a nice, simple game to learn and teach, and a relatively quick game to play. It wasn't a game that, and it was on TTS. I think we played it in about 45 minutes, and that's on TTS. So probably you're talking about a half-hour game with 2 players. Probably it will be, and it would be really good. This increase, it works brilliantly as a 2-player, but at 3 or 4, there's a whole lot more going on, which would allow you to. I think the interaction would be very, very different, because you get fewer chances to grab the thing you need. So your planning and strategy will need to be different. So I think Elements of the Gods is definitely one to watch out for. I know we've only got about a week left on the Kickstarter, probably less than that when this video goes up. So definitely don't miss out on this one. Watch out for late pledge. See if you can get onto a late pledge on this, or even when it hits if it does hit the stores later on after Kickstarter. This is an absolutely brilliant game, and definitely one that gets a big thumbs up from the Hipster King.
Quite different to a lot of other stuff we've played.
Yeah,
so
really.
Big thumbs up from me as well.
We love a new type of game, don't we? There's been a few recently that have just kind of come in completely out of left field. I've never played anything like it, and I loved it.
Give it a go.